I walked back to my cabin earlier than planned, only to find the lights blazing, the porch crowded with strangers and music thumping through the walls. My cabin. My family's cabin. And when I confronted the woman behind it all, the HOA president herself, she didn't apologize. She called the cops on me, screaming that I was the intruder. Act 1. The conflict begins. My name's Michael Turner. I'm 38, a construction engineer, and the only son of a man who built a little lakeside cabin with his own 2 hands. That cabin has been in my family for decades, and every nail, every board, every tree planted out front, it all carried my father's sweat and memory. When he passed, I inherited it, not just as property, but as a piece of him. The neighborhood around the lake had changed, though. New developments, stricter community rules, and worst of all, a homeowners association. Karen Simmons, blonde bob cut, clipboard glued to her side, 50-something with the kind of permanent smirk that makes your blood boil, got herself elected HOA president. From the start, she had it out for me. The first letter showed up tucked under my windshield. Your grass exceeds 6 inches. Immediate compliance required. It was laughable. I barely lived there full-time, just weekends and holidays. But the next week she was standing on my porch wagging that clipboard like a weapon. She even pointed me out to neighbors like I was some kind of delinquent. If he doesn't comply, we'll fine him heavy. I tried to play nice, told her I'd keep the place tidy, that it was just a weekend home. She gave me that tight smile, the kind that hides a dagger, and walked away. Right then I knew this wasn't about grass. She wanted control. She wanted me gone. Act 2. Escalation and doubt. Weeks passed and little things didn't add up. A moved chair dishes out of place that faint smell of perfume in the bedroom. At first I thought maybe I was imagining it. Until one Friday I pulled up unannounced and the whole cabin reeked of cooked food. Sheets wrinkled. Fridge half empty. My cabin had been lived in. I asked the neighbors. They shifted, looked away. Finally one muttered, "Yeah, we've seen people in and out, with Karen." I marched right to her house and she met me on her manicured lawn like she'd been waiting. She laughed in my face. "You should be thanking me, Michael. I kept your place from looking abandoned." My fists clenched, but I had no proof, just suspicion. And that's when everything flipped. Because the next time I showed up, Karen dialed 911 before I could even set foot inside. When the cops rolled up, she shrieked like a banshee. He broke into my property. We were terrified when he showed up uninvited. Her property, my father's cabin, my inheritance. I stood there humiliated as officers asked me for ID like I was a criminal trespasser. Party guests whispered, filming on their phones, waiting for me to be dragged off. My hands shook not from fear, but from the humiliation. And for 1 sick second I doubted myself. Maybe I was being stubborn. Maybe selling would end this nightmare. Was it worth the constant battle, the gossip, the threats? I felt small, powerless. But then, the twist. While cleaning, I'd found a crumpled document tucked behind the couch, a rental agreement with my forged signature. And later, a kind neighbor, Mary Johnson, slipped me a flash drive. Her security cam had captured Karen leading strangers into my cabin like a tour guide. That was the spark I needed. Proof. No more second guessing. If Karen wanted war, she just handed me the ammo. Act 3. The showdown. The HOA meeting was packed. Karen presiding like a queen on her throne. She smirked as I walked in, already rehearsing her little speech. But this time I came loaded. She pointed a finger at me, voice dripping venom. "This man doesn't respect our rules. He's a danger to this community." I didn't yell. I didn't need to. I laid the contract on the table, my signature staring back in fake ink. Then I played Mary's video, Karen unlocking my door, waving in strangers with a wine bottle raised high. Gasps rippled through the room. Neighbors shifted in their seats. Karen went red, voice cracking as she tried to spin it. "Don't believe him. He's dangerous. I've seen him lurking." The cops were there too, watching. One leaned in. "Ma'am, he's the legal owner." And just like that, the mask slipped. The room that once cheered her now stared like she was a common crook. I pulled out one more card, a hard drive of cabin security footage. Every door unlocked, every fake notice she taped on neighbors' homes, every smug laugh with her guests. The officers froze the frame on her handwriting, bold as day. One cop crossed his arms. "Ma'am, this is forgery and trespassing. If you collected money or favors under false authority, that's fraud." Her knees buckled. She stammered, reaching for excuses that weren't there. Finally, she snapped, screaming, "You don't know who I am," before bolting toward the dock. But the officers caught her halfway down her heels, clattering like a final drum roll. The click of the cuffs echoed over the water, sharp and final. The party froze. Guests slunk away ashamed. One muttered, "She dragged us into this mess." And I just stood there on my own porch, the weight lifting off me like fog burning away in the sun. The cops told me she'd be facing charges: forgery, trespassing, fraud. She shrieked threats. "This isn't over, I'll sue." But nobody believed her anymore, not with the flashing red and blue lights reflecting off her face. For the first time in months, the cabin was mine again. Quiet, solid, real. Closing line. And that's when I learned people like Karen shout the loudest when they're lying, but the truth doesn't need to scream. It just needs to be seen.